channel. This is The Midnight Reader. My name is Rosica. If you're new around here, thanks for watching and tuning in. This is going to be a September wrap-up. I didn't read that many books in September because I was just getting out of a reading slump, so I was trying to be kind to myself a bit with the amount of books that I was reading. I'd also like to send a shout out to the BookTubeverse for doing my book tag, which is kind of amazing and wonderful. If you don't know, I created an original tag. It's called the Book Stack tag. I will link it somewhere, and people are actually doing it, and it's really very fun. If you've ever made your own book tag, you'll know that it's very nerve-wracking. Oh god, I'm slightly tilted. Hold on, can we fix this? Oh no, that's not better. Is that better? I think it's better. Anyway, this is the quality content you can expect on this channel. But yeah, people have been actually doing the tag, which is really cool and wonderful. And also it's achieving the dream of what I actually intended with the tag, which is bugging all my friends for great book recommendations. And so I may or may not be compiling an Excel spreadsheet because I'm a nerd. So thanks for doing the tag if you've already done it. Please feel free to watch that video and do the tag if you're interested. It's currently making the BookTube rounds and it's making me very happy. So we're just gonna thanks for welcoming me back to the BookTube and doing my tag. It's pretty cool. So getting into the 3 books that I read for September. First up, I read A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is the second book in the Monk and Robot series, which follows the first book called A Psalm for the Wild Built, which I loved. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I talk about that book a lot. In the sequel, Bosscap the robot and Dex the T-Monk continue their slow winding journey to answer Bosscap's question, what do humans really need? There's something about Becky Chambers and her eco-positivity utopia futures. It's so darn delightful, and I thoroughly lost myself in her descriptions of this world and its technologies and the many ways in which humans have made the world more than just a little bit better. The plot is largely background, as most of this book is spent looking inward as sibling Dex continues to grapple with their depression and their inability to give themselves the sort of peace and forgiveness that they give to others. I really did like the fact that burnout and depression is a through line in both books, and I also liked that there's no magical point of healing. At no point during the first or second book does Dex spontaneously resolve their mental health issues. There's no aha moment that fixes everything. It's more about the journey and the slow efforts towards healing and recovery, and the hope that one day it's going to be a little bit better. While the first book took place more in the wilderness, this book builds out more of the human world and all the little idiosyncrasies of its communities. Becky Chambers also uses this kind of through-line motif of crown shyness, as per the title, which is sort of a real-world botany phenomenon, which I'll include a picture of here, which is where trees sort of decide not to compete. Their canopies grow just enough to take up as much space as they need, and then they leave space for the tree next to them. And it's cool because if you look at a canopy where crown shyness is happening, it kind of creates this beautiful geographic pattern where it looks like the sky is sort of forming rivers and things like that. It's very healing, it's very calming. It was sort of the perfect book to kind of ease myself back into reading. My only complaint about this book is that I thought it was too short. I anticipated that this book would be mostly about journeying, but not only does it kind of lack a destination, it also lacks a longer path on the journey. I needed more time in this world with Dex and Bosscap is all I'm saying, and I think this book could have been longer and that would have improved it a bit. I am also more pessimistic than I think the author is about how humans behave in utopias, and I think the world that she builds is a little too optimistic. The idea is sort of that if you meet all people's needs, they will be happy and find their habitat and communities and essentially participate in a sort of communal crown shyness with other people. And I just don't think that's how people work. People's happinesses are prone to overlap. If my happiness is to go to bed at 6 p.m. and my neighbor's happiness is to play their music till 2:30 in the morning, we're gonna have conflict. I think it was maybe a little bit too optimistic for how humans currently behave, but I did really like it. I think I gave it 5 stars, and it was an excellent little read to kind of ease me back after a reading slump. If you like this book, you would probably like Under the Whispering Door by T.G. Klune, which is also a lot of tea and cozy vibes mixed with philosophical musings. Next, I read Kitchens of the Great Midwest by J. Ryan Stradal. This is an adult fiction book that follows the main character, Ava, on her journey through life from birth to adulthood as she finds deep love and solace in the world through cooking and flavor. I did pick up this book because of the cover, which I thought was really cute. This does use the structure of a different narrator after every chapter, and depending on the character's relationship with Ava, she can be someone that is very pivotal in their life, or she can be someone who barely features in their satellite orbit. Because this is food and chef themed, every chapter features a primary ingredient or food like lutefisk, chocolate habaneros, or green pepper jelly, and interweaving the stories of those foods with those characters and Eva's life is the main structure of the story. Side note for the fucking author, he killed my favorite character in the first freaking chapter, and you can't do that to me, okay? I'm gonna take off a full fucking star for that. There were some great chapters in here. I think some of my favorites were Walleye, which is a fish. That was fucking hilarious. That was told by a teenage boy who liked her in high school, and it has so much teenage boy angst and so much teenage boy blindness to like see Eva as more than a manic pixie dream girl and like someone who has her own problems and issues. It was delicious and it was super fucking funny. I also really liked the chapter called Bars, which was about the high stakes competitions of state fair baking in Minnesota and how divorced real food can become from like foodie culture and like food snobbery. Really, this book is more of a slice of life for all the different sorts of people and their various beliefs who populate Minnesota. It's kind of a love letter to Minnesota as a community. And anyone who grew up in the Midwest is gonna kind of recognize that Minnesota nice culture and recognize people from their own communities in this book. So that was probably the most fun aspects of this. Downsides, it is an overwhelmingly white slice of life story. So it's not particularly varied, even though it features a lot of people with very different belief systems. They are fundamentally mostly middle-class white people. So I thought it was okay. I thought it was a good adult fiction book. It suffered a little bit in the ways that a lot of adult fiction doesn't capture my attention as well. I did really like the food and the cooking aspects, so if you're someone who really likes reading books that feature food as their center, you'll probably enjoy this. I just want to plug a book in here called A Good Time for the Truth, Race in Minnesota. And it's a collection of essays by a variety of authors, and I would highly recommend that book as a side dish to this one to add more variety to the slice of life of Minnesota. I think I gave this book 4 stars. Lastly, I read Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, who can we just say has like maybe the best name of any author. He sounds like an herbology teacher from Harry Potter. So this is a nonfiction book. It's sort of a deep dive into the world of mushrooms and fungi. This is the sort of nonfiction science book that I really enjoy, where it takes one little section of our world and just focuses the shit out of it. And that's all about fungi and mushrooms. And I had a great time. I gotta tell ya, I learned a lot. I learned about zombie funguses that hijack carpenter ants and death march them up to the tops of plants where they death bite into the grass, and then a mushroom erupts from their head and the spores fritter down onto all the ants below, eventually killing all the other ants. I learned how old zombie fungus is because you can see the little death bites of carpenter ants in our fossil record. I learned that there are plants that don't produce chlorophyll, including one which is a flower, which is really cool, so I'll show that here. They don't produce chlorophyll, which means that they really don't plant very well, but they survive because they've evolved to get their nutrients from other green plants fed to them by fungal networks in their root systems. And it was just so cool. He talks a lot about the wood wide web. He talks a lot about how mushrooms are the smallest section of fungi that you can possibly imagine. They're just the fruiting bodies. And this whole underworld network exists that's completely unforeseen to us. And it affects our food, it affects how we get rid of waste. It's just so cool. And if you're interested in mushrooms or botany at all, I highly recommend the book. It was great. It reminded me a lot of A History of Mosses by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and especially in the sense that it made me look for mushrooms everywhere. I started just looking on my dog walks, and like, I couldn't see any for a while, and then eventually I started to find them. First, it was just the little ones that stuck out from the lawn. Then there was the giant one, which I mistook for a deflated volleyball sticking out of the woods. Then I started to find all the little myriad of little caps camouflaged as dead leaves or fallen nuts. And I started to get really into looking for the little boogers. So much so that when I had an opportunity to go up to upstate New York for a wedding between two wonderful friends, I had a free morning and I got to meet up with my real life book friend, Chelsea, who is also like a fellow naturalist enthusiast. She's amazing. This is her, and we decided to go on a walk in the woods on a very brisk New York fall morning and try to find as many mushrooms as possible. And we found so many. And once you start finding them, like, you can't stop seeing them. They're everywhere. I grew up foraging in the woods with my family in Alaska, so running around in the woods just really tickles a very specific fungi happy place. We had so much fun, and it was a gorgeous fall day, and we found so many mushrooms. Trying to include a lot of the video here, but I also just cannot recommend finding a friend who will run around in the woods with you to go find hidden mushrooms, like, highly enough. It's good fun. It's just good fun. I am rating this 4 stars because it is slower in places, and while I read it on audiobook, I did miss out on a lot of the illustrations, but I did enjoy it, and it's a really good, like, nonfiction on the world of mushrooms, if that's your thing. But that was my September wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found a couple of books that you thought would be interesting on there. These are the books that sort of gently lifted me out of my reading slump. Let me know if you've read any of these books. I'm always trying to find people who match my somewhat eclectic reading taste. But as always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you all next week. Bye.